People are talking about Canadian geese being more horrifying than normal geese.
But not more horrifying than leprechauns.
I don't know. When I was a kid, over by the Erie Canal, there would be tons of ducks and pigeons and geese and whatnot.
Hello.
Uh-oh. Oh, sunflower fields. A bunch of geese.
A witcher, right? Wait!
What's the problem?
Oh, nothing. On your way now, good man.
Shut
Oh,
it,
nothing.
Dad. He could help. Little Red's band means to attack the village. Want revenge on Bertram. We haven't much, but we're willing to pay if you defend us.
Who's Bertram? Who's Little Red?
Who's Little Red?
Word is she fornicates with wolves and can tear a man apart with her bare mitts. A she-beast in human husk. Though some call her a great beauty.
She leads a pack of deserters, true dregs, from different armies. The kind what knows killing and plundering well.
Wait, Little Red.
Little Red Riding Hood.
No. Wasn't the girl in the show Little Red?
What little girl?
Remember the girl who was a princess who was then left on the road to die, and then she led a band of vagrants?
Oh.
Wasn't she called Little Red?
Dunno.
I think she was because she always wore red, didn't she?
So all of it, I started paying more attention as the series went on because I was...
That was the first episode, and
I
to
was
establish things.
I was definitely, like, zonked out working on... I guess I was working on my new stream art, which I'm very proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But, anyway.
Why's this band want revenge on you of all people?
Cause I ratted on them to the witch hunters.
Witch hunters care about bandits. Since when?
Little Red's band, they was terrorizing our village. We had none to defend us. Finally, Bertram went by the hunters, asked them. So the hunters went after him. We had a spell of peace, but now Little Red's learnt of it all. Wants to kill Bertram. He's done for if you don't help.
Fine. I'll handle the bandits. Go to your homes, bar the doors.
Beware of them, Witcher. They're the dangerous type, truly.
Until dusk for a band to attack. Well, it's a little past dusk. Hey lads, is there any among you that can lend me a plow? Thing is, mine smacked up against a stone in my field so hard it bent halfways. And may a fiend take me if I know how to fix it or plow my field without it. So I'm gonna let you read these again. I will be right back one last time.
Gulliver, a warning. Good people, I know the road takes a little meander hereabouts. I know the straightest pass through my fields, but the next man I catch trampling my crops, why, with the gods... What's going on? Wait, did we trample his crops? The next man I catch trampling my crops, why, with the gods as my witness, I swear I'll bludgeon you so badly not a single bone in your lazy body will be left intact. So consider yourselves warned, and stay on the blasted road, you vagrants. I just used that word to describe the bandits. Now, it does remind me of how my parents had to put up a fence, because we would get people... So, in my old neighborhood, there's a main road. It's like the neighborhood is built into different tiers. There is the high tier, the mid tier, and the low tier. And where my family's house was sort of like in the mid tier of the neighborhood. And so all of these tiers were parallel streets. And it was sort of staggered at which point you could go up from one street to the next. So it was sort of like a zigzag-esque fashion, if you will. So if one wanted to make, a speedy cut through, they could technically go through someone's yards to get to the back. And we specifically had a cul-de-sac behind us, so, people can cut through one way to the next. Unfortunately, instead of just going down the road, the actual street, a little, like one house rows over to the left, they would cut through our yard. and with bikes and with who knows what. So it was a little obnoxious, to say the least. And sometimes people throw bottles and such. I don't know. But in any case, eventually my parents put up a fence because it was a nuisance. And yeah, people would actually drag up their chairs to sit in our yard during fireworks. And it's like, hey, you know, go find your own yard. Or go to the park where the fireworks are actually taking place. Okay. Well, in any case, you back?
Yep.
Alright. The enemy never sleeps. Fellow Northerners, the enemy never sleeps. The Black Devils have pitched camp on the other side of the river. Our lads will defend us to their last bolt and last drop of blood, but you too need to be prepared to serve your fatherland. Steel and blood aren't the only things a man can wield in the fight for Redania. A wary eye and a cocked ear do battle just as well. So if you see a stranger hanging about your village, or someone hiding in the bush, or you hear someone talking with a foreign accent, send an envoy to the nearest outpost at once, because you might have just spotted an Nilfgaardian spy. To do this, you will not only serve Redania. Is it Redania or Redania? Wander? Do you remember?
I think it's Redania.
Redania? But you enrich yourself as well. We will reward all such help as generously as it deserves. Together, shoulder to shoulder, onwards to victory! Captain Vit Raymond. A daughter has been born to me. Sorbamir. Do you want to read it? Or are you not?
You can.
Okay. Fellow folk, I'm the proud dove, a little girl. She's lovely as a nymph and strong as a fiend and bellows like a furious harpy, except maybe a bit louder. Come to my cottage and drink to her health and the health of her darling mother, and perhaps lend a hand in choosing her name, for I'm having a tough time of choosing between Nesla, after my brother's wife, or Lesla, after no one, but whose sound I'm partial to. I mean, Lesla or Nesla, I mean, they're so similar. I would, okay. So the thing is, you don't want to name your child after someone else in the family, because it when they pass on or something, then your child is going to serve as a reminder, just their very name would. And also, I don't know. Imagine the girl growing up and really, really disliking her aunt. And they both share the same name. She should have a unique name. Like Lesla. They're both pretty and proper, but I cannot give her two names. And we're just simple peasants. Not high and mighty lords who can drape themselves with names so long that no man's capable of remembering. Sort of taking a jab at people with 5, 6, 7 names in their long, long line. Yeah, people are saying it's an honor. Yeah. At the same time, haven't there also been legal and financial issues with people that are, you know, Robin the Second, Robin the Third, Robin the Fourth, Robin the Fifth, and you just have a very, very long list of males in the same line that all share their father's names and all share names with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what's crazy? And I'm pretty sure it's happened in the past. What if a guy kept having sons and he kept naming all of them Robin?
I mean,
has that ever happened?
Didn't Mike Tyson do that?
Really?
I think so.
Really? Did he name all of them Michael? Or something else? Yeah. I don't know. I hear horror stories about Social Security and a whole host of other things happening because too many people have the same name.
But there was definitely like some famous person. George Foreman named all of his sons George.
Oh.
Yeah, so George Foreman and his sons George, and George Foreman.
George. At that point, though,
I get George Foreman and Mike Tyson.
Would you call one like Joe and one one Georgie,
Probably.
and one G, or one, I don't know.
Oh my god, what an asshole.
Wait, how many sons did he end up having? What have you discovered?
Okay. So, I will admit, this is not a well-organized list, but he's got George Foreman all the way up to George Foreman the 6th. Okay, I'm gonna go through this list. I have no idea how many children he actually has. This is just George
God.
Foreman children, and there's 3 pages of them.
What?
Frida Foreman, George Foreman 3, Georgetta Foreman, which is why I reacted like, oh my god, what an
Did
asshole.
he,
Exactly.
He named all his daughters?
No, he called one of
Georgetta?
his daughters Georgetta. Then Natalie Foreman, Leola Foreman, Courtney Isaac Foreman.
Sorry, Foreman family, for us reading off all
George
your
Foreman
names.
Jr., 4, 5, 6, Mitchie Foreman, and Isabella Brenda Lilja Foreman. She got all the names, and then they ran out of curiosity. Or creativity, and we're just like, shit, George? How many kids does he have? 10 kids. Yeah, no,
Wow.
12. 5 sons, 7 daughters. All 5 of his sons are George Jr., George 3, called Monk, George 4, Big Wheel, George 5, Red, and George 6, Little Joey.
Okay, so the little Joey obviously took on
I
something
named all
similar
of
to
my
George.
sons George Edward Foreman. He didn't even give
He
them
didn't
unique
give him
middle
middle
names.
If he gave them different middle names, at least they could have distinguished you. Actually, they probably would have taken up their middle names.
So
in
they'd
that
always
instance.
have something in common. What an absolute thunder grill. Like, good lord. That's awful. I gotta hope the man was at least a great father beyond that, because otherwise, like, ugh.
I'm surprised some of them didn't legally change their names down the
I
line.
mean, if they specifically like had a great relationship with their father and brothers, it wouldn't be so bad. But like, I was gonna call him a thunder goddess, but I remembered George Foreman makes grills.
Oh, you're right.
But like, if as long as he was a good parent otherwise, I could be okay with it. But if he was like any standard celebrity parent who's just kind of dismissive and awful to their kids, I mean, that's not standard maybe.
I
but,
do
like,
find it weird though when you have people calling their children Apple or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also thought it was interesting when, you know, West and Kardashian ended up naming their children after cardinal directions.
I mean,
Or was it just one child?
West isn't terrible.
Being called North, West, or Southwest. You can't be East-West, though. In any case. Homer's vow. Lilamira. To folk far and wide. I've told you all plenty of times, but never put it in writing, as I'm doing now, so that none might hide behind a defense of ignorance. My boy Premier sworn to the great mother Melitele that he'll never touch beer nor spirit again for as long as he lives, and it's a good thing he has, for when he lost our goat, hens, butter churn, and the very breeches that he was wearing in a game of cards 2 weeks back, I was mighty tempted to toss him out on his bare arse, or at least give him a thorough hiding. Oh, by thorough hiding, she doesn't mean to hide him, she means to slap him with a belt. So if anyone spies Pamir walking towards a tavern, come see me at once, and you'll get a Novigrad crown for your trouble. Likewise, if I see any man encouraging him to drink, offering him a pint or a snifter or anything, and that scoundrel will learn that a hoe fit for more than... Wait. That a hoe fit for more than just plowing? Oh, I see. It's a... She is saying that she'll use her... I don't like saying it, but a garden hoe. To
Yeah.
smack him one. Alright. Contract. Apiarian Phantom. So this is Holofernes. Meersdorf and Sons. Calling all bounty hunters, trackers, and witches. Misfortune has fallen the Honeyfill in the apiary for which 5 generations has provided a livelihood for the entire Meersdorf family. The apiarian phantom has descended upon us and has begun to destroy our hives, slay our bees, and wreak general havoc all around. I shall be grateful to any of you who can provide and guarantee a reward. To help and. I shall be grateful to any help you can provide and guarantee a reward. Guarantee a reward awaits you for work well done. Do you know what I don't like about this font? Because it's white, it glows and the words meld together at times.
Yeah, it's not. It's also like white text on that kind of dark background with like how close the letters are together. There's a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
Is that all of them?
And people are still shuffling their way into their houses.
Yep. Well, do we try and drive off Little Red's attack? We might as well. Find out if I'm totally bone zoned or not without super healing. We'll see. Okay. Oh, right. Character.
Oh, butter churning. So, this was funny. This is an interesting story. I've probably told it before, but I can tell it again. So, when we were in 4th grade, and I know that a lot of 4th graders around the country have something similar to this, but maybe it was just something in our particular district. In 4th grade, we had a Colonial Day fair, where every child in our class was assigned a role in a colonial town, and we drew them from a hat, so we didn't have a choice in the matter. But you had things like the miller, the baker, the candlestick maker, quite literally, those were all on the list. Maybe something like the blacksmith, and do you know what I mean? Maybe the hunter, the leather, the tanner, that's what you would call someone who tans leather, right?
Yeah.
Things like that. And guess what I picked up out of the hat? I picked up the homemaker. Really? I had one of the least suspicious jobs. I was a little upset at that. But hey, you know, what was I gonna do? So we were supposed to we were supposed to dress up like our role. So I had a bonnet and a sort of like a black dress and dark shoes and such and an apron. And we were supposed to... Oh. Wait, that's Little Red? Oh.
Did the villagers hire you?
They did, to defend them from monsters, and humans who can be monsters.
And you believe me to be such?
Are you?
Find out for yourself if you dare. Or give me Bertram. No one else will get hurt.
I want to hear from her. Yeah, what did Bertram do?
What did Bertram do to you to warrant vengeance?
Mean they didn't mention this bit? Then listen. He came to me a half-year back. Said he'd point out who's worth looting in return for a share of the takings.
Ooh.
Sometime on, the bugger grew greedy. He wanted more. I refused. That's when he set the witch hunters on us. Lost half me men 'cause of him. Now step aside, Witcher. This ain't your affair. We want Bertram, no one else. Give my word.
Wait a minute. So, she's a bandit, runs a bandit gang, and look at that guy furiously pounding on the doors. I think that's funny. But, so this guy came and he said, I'm going to tell you precisely who you should rob, or where you should rob, so long as he got some of the spoils. So they're all scum.
Yep.
Quite frankly.
So I say we set her on fire, her band on fire, and Bertram on fire.
Don't care much what you say. Take your men and get lost, or there'll be blood.
Oh, there'll be blood either way. You just ensured there'll be more of it.
Oh, she is a werewolf. They weren't lying. And she can turn at will. It's not determined by the full moon.
Never learn.
Unless, is that a special ability on her part, or what is it?
I think she's just a werewolf.
But the other guy that we found, he only turned on the night of the full moon. And he would go into his cave.
Well, he might have been more focused on...
I mean, maybe it's because if there are those that truly embrace the wolf half, maybe they have better control of it later on rather than trying to push it back.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. His HP goes up. Holy crap.
Oh, that would be interesting. Because I have seen instances in fiction where there are those who try to refrain from using their bestial side or their other half. And in doing so, they actually make it worse when they do transform.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are those that embrace it but then get consumed by it to the point where they never turn back to being human again. You've seen those, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then there are the ones that learn to strike a balance to the point where it is under their control. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, that's...
The dog wasn't helpful in the slightest.
That was a
or
little harder.
Gave them.
You failed to mention she was a werewolf.
Well, I mean, we wasn't altogether sure ourselves. But that's a good thing. It's what witches are for, innit? Killing monsters. Thanks for your help. This here's well earned.
And he just fades from existence.
So we can't even exact. Well, we can't even talk him into.
Yeah, I would
ending
straight
his-
up tell the guy, like, hey, by the way, did you guys get robbed by bandits at any point in the last couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
There, we got 10 crowns for that. I mean, they are poor.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, we don't know where Bertram is, and slaying him at this point would be
Well,
hard.
yeah, because I would be curious as to find out where these thieves have their hideout, if anyone had been ransacked, and, well, if anyone's homes had been ransacked, and if we should return
it
something
easy.
to them. And if Bertram is directly responsible for these happenings, and if anyone was killed in the process of these burglaries occurring, then he's just as guilty, I'd say. He wasn't the one to conduct the raids, but he was the one that facilitated them.
Yep.
But in any case,
Bit of a shame that they don't have that as a thing. And if that is a thing, and you can actually go back and
find him. Yeah.
rat him out too, then I'd love to know.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't quite have the old health regeneration that we did before.
Mm-hmm. But you're back to full by the looks of it.
Yeah. So
Is that the toxicity that's in green, by the way?
yeah, correct. So now I'm actually gonna have to start drinking potions and using Quen a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, that's how I should have been playing the entire time. The freaking health regen, I'm not even sure how that had worked out with the modding process, but now it's at least a little bit more reasonable.
All right. So I should probably get back to the butter churning story. So I was supposed to bring in a couple of objects that represent the homemaker. So I think my grandmother had an unfinished quilt piece that I think even her mother or grandmother had started working on, which I think is awesome. She has whole quilts that were in part made by my great, maybe it was my great, or just my great grandmother. But So I brought one of those pieces in to show sewing. And then there was, let's see. Aside from that, I don't really remember much else of what I brought in, now that I think about it. But I did bring in butter. I actually made well, actually, it wasn't so much butter as the components to make the butter. You can actually make your own butter with, what is it? Is it a combination of milk, cream, salt, and what else?
I don't even know. But yeah.
Maybe a little bit of citrus juice. No, that makes buttermilk. It doesn't necessarily, you need something to create a curdling process. Heavy cream and salt, that's all. Huh, okay. Yeah, so I know I definitely remember the cream and the salt part, but I had it in a big jar. And what I was doing much of the class was I was shaking this jar, and sure enough, like a little glob of butter was starting to form in the slosh. But it was interesting because one of my friends was the baker, and she actually, had some loaves of bread in with her. But we, as I recall, we didn't actually have a scheduled lunch period that day. And you would think, elementary school, no, they would surely let you have a day for lunch. But they were having all of the younger children in the school coming through our classroom to learn more about, our occupations in colonial day, America and such. And so we actually didn't get a lunch period like we used to, or like we were used to. So all the kids in class were starting to go hungry. And it was hilarious because here I was actually churning butter and my friend had some bread. So it came to the point where kids were starting to, sneak some pieces of bread from her and, smear a little bit of the butter that I had in my jar onto the bread so that they had something to eat. But yeah, so that was amusing. I think we had used up about half the butter and half the bread by the end of class, but what do you think?
Master Topical, at your service. Got a hankering for mushrooms. Want to brew a bit of herb tea, dreaming of a way to relax after a hard day in the fields. Come to see Master Topical. Not tropical. He's got boletes, and all sorts of other fungi. Dried nettle, hops, pipes, fool's parsley, carline, poppy milk, and much, much more. Buy and sell the world's bounty at Master Topical's. Warning vagrants, if you plan on traversing Dead White Wood, the one near the ruins of Arnscrone Castle, forget about it. Best add on half a league and go round. It's for your own good. For nor you nor no man else'll meet anything good in that place. Danger! Steer clear of Heddle. Beware, monsters, spiders have woven foul webs around the village of Heddle. Big as a boar and the beasts are, and ravenous, but not for flies, but as is befitting their kind, but for flesh. Any wandering monster slayer reads this notice, please stop by. You'll surely be rewarded for your trouble if you can clear Heddle of the scourge.
Huh, Quick Willy.
For Mighty Thirsts.
That's an interesting name.
Best meet around. Any man who considers himself a fine judge of fine drinks, come see Bill, better known as Quick Willy. This summer's been a warm one, and the meadows are all abloom, and so we've got a bumper crop of honey. Whether it's double mead you crave or yearning for a triple, Quick Willy's got you covered, but not his own.
So, okay, I never understood it. How did you get Bill from William?
William?
I mean, so obviously they both have ill after the first consonant, but Bill and Will? How do you go from a W to a B? Oh. It's kind of like, one thing I'll also never understand is Richard to Dick. How did that ever happen?
I honestly don't know.
Because I can see people calling a Richard Rich, but how...
So, we had brought this up previous...
Yeah, we had brought it up.
Yeah, it might be like Rick to Dick. But I gotta... This exchange is perfect. I never understood that. Just like how people get dick from Richard. The response is, you ask nicely.
Oh, no.
Could have been more perfect. Oh, boy. Tinker Cheap. Greetings, the name's Krister Hegan. Tinkering's my trade. I've hung out a shingle here in Morin at a man named Sherrick's place. I'm renting a room from him, so stop by. I can guarantee the best workmanship for unbeatable prices. Remember, Morin, Krister Hegan. Tinker Cheap.
So this is Otto Bomber? Herbalist.
Good folk, my apprentice Volker disappeared without a trace. I'm terribly worried about him. So, whoever finds him and brings him back shall receive a sizable sum of Novigrad crowns. If you're interested, come to my hut on the outskirts of Oxenfoot. If you lose the way, ask passing peasants where your local herbalist has his practice. They'll guide you.
Otto Bamber. Herbalist. That's probably so far off the mark voice-wise, but whatever. Alright.
I noticed that you're actually holding your throat for that. Are you okay?
It's a little hard on the tendons.
Oh, right.
Thank you, Wildemar Kid, for gifting a sub to Javier for that, because that really was just dumb perfect. Okay, so what do we got up here? Oh, scavenger hunt, Griffin School gear.
Oh,
Yeah, let's...
Griffin School stuff.
I mean, considering I'm using Griffin School gear anyway.
I find it highly amusing that we're avoiding finding Anna, surely because doing so will prevent us from getting a special card from her husband. Really? Ah, drowners. Are we going to enter the sewers around here? Or...
No, I wanted to go for the Griffin School gear.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Oop, that head went flying. Interesting fact. These aren't aquatic people. They're...
Undead.
Well, yep, undead. We read about them in our journals.
Right. I was just going to speed north.
I really do wonder how humans would have fared if creatures like this really were a constant threat.
I think humans ultimately probably would have been fine.
But would we have been perpetually set back? Or would it only spur further innovation?
I think it would have spurred further innovation. I think it would have been one of those that maybe human development would have been delayed slightly further, but then after that,
it just seems like people can't go out and farm without getting abducted by monsters or killed.
But, I mean, we had that with wolves and...
Yeah, but wolves
all sorts of
weren't
predators.
Overly persistent predators.
Didn't humans and saber-tooth tigers exist during the same time period?
I believe so.
Whoa there, Roach.
But, like... Oh. Oh, there's a place of
Unless
power
I'm
down here.
mistaken, I know that there are instances
Place
in
of
which
power. Should draw from it.
saber-tooth tigers in a particular region would not have existed
Oh, it's harpies.
around the same time as humans, or if humans hadn't actually... Whoa, what is that?
Oh, wyverns.
Oh, interesting. Have we faced wyverns before? I don't believe so.
I found one a while ago, and it destroyed me.
All I know is that there are some depictions of humans hunting down or facing Ice Age animals, and people saying that it wasn't feasible.
But yeah, I would firmly believe that
Wolves definitely went after livestock, but I don't really know how often they would go after humans.
I would still firmly believe that corporeal undead would be easy enough to deal with. How the hell do we get across
I really
here?
think their being undead would influence an entire culture,
Maybe I have to go in here.
people would, yes, be cremated, probably to ensure that you wouldn't have any of those corpses brought back to life.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes sense, though. Like, cremation would just be the norm if you had to worry about undead. I think it would also depend on what kind of undead, because if it was like Walking Dead undead, where
Well, then
everybody's contagious.
Everyone gets summarily stabbed in the head when they die, is essentially what they do. But that's because the state of undeath is dependent on... which I don't understand, really. You know how so desiccated those corpses can get? And yet it's only destroying a certain part of their cranium, you know, within the brain tissue, that makes them, quote-unquote, truly die? I don't understand it. It actually begs the question, when exposed to the elements, or after death, do certain organs rot more swiftly than others? I'd actually be very curious as to find the answer to that in a morbid way. Because if you think about it, in instances like The Walking Dead, what if the brain is far more fragile than, say, the skin or the muscle tissue? And if it rotted away first, unless the virus stains it somehow, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because this undead...
A place of power.
In this universe, undeath, it doesn't necessarily seem to be so much a pathogen or a virus as it is a curse.